For news organizations, the flood of Gaza war video is proving both illuminating and troubling. Medics and patients, including babies, stranded as battles rage around Gaza hospitals. Biden says Gaza's largest hospital must be protected as thousands flee the fighting. Today is Tuesday, November 14th, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report. In a war where journalist access is limited, there's a flood of video available online from the Israel-Hamas war. The challenge for news outlets is that much of it is very disturbing to sift through, and much of it is fake. But some also provides important clues on how the war is unfolding, and news organizations are increasing the use and training of journalists who are adept such open-source reporting. The reports by several organizations using video and other sources to investigate competing claims regarding a hospital explosion in Gaza is an example of how this form of journalism is coming into its own. Health officials say battles between Israel and Hamas around hospitals forced thousands of Palestinians to flee from some of the last perceived safe places in northern Gaza. Critically wounded patients, including newborns and their caregivers, have been stranded, officials say. With dwindling supplies and no electricity, the Israeli military has urged Palestinians to flee south on foot through what it calls safe corridors, but its stated goal of separating civilians from Hamas militants has come at a heavy cost. More than 2/3 of Gaza's 2.3 million people have fled their homes. U.S. President Joe Biden said Monday that Gaza City's main hospital, Shifa, must be protected. Fighting between Israeli forces and Palestinian militants outside Gaza's largest hospital has prompted thousands of people to flee from the medical facility. But health officials said Monday that hundreds of patients and others displaced by the war remained inside. Patients inside the hospital include dozens of babies at risk of dying because of a lack of electricity. U.S. President Joe Biden said Shifa Hospital must be protected and called for less intrusive action by Israeli forces. The World Health Organization says the hospital has been without electricity and water for 3 days and is not functioning as a hospital anymore. Combat training programs provided by Ukraine's allies are hitting major milestones even as global attention shifts to the Israel-Hamas war. Foreign training is improving Ukraine's odds of victory and helping it hold out against the Russian invasion, grinding into a second winter. The training also makes concrete allies' promises to stick with Ukraine for the long haul. The Associated Press was granted access to a training base in rural France last week, where instructors put Ukrainians through their paces at the tail end of a 4-week training course. French trainers say they have learned through experience that it's unwise to get too friendly with trainees, because some of them are sure to be killed back home. Former British Prime Minister David Cameron has made an unexpected return to high office. He was appointed Foreign Secretary on Monday in a major shakeup of the Conservative government that also saw the firing of divisive Home Secretary Suella Braverman. It's rare for a former leader and a non-lawmaker to take a senior UK government post. He led the government between 2010 and 2016 and triggered the country's exit from the European Union. Sunak was under growing pressure to fire Braverman, a divisive figure popular with the right wing of the governing Conservative Party, who drew anger for accusing police of being too lenient with pro-Palestinian protesters. A Philippine court has freed on bail of a former senator jailed more than 6 years ago on drug charges she said were fabricated to silence her investigation of then-President Rodrigo Duterte's brutal crackdown on illegal drugs. The European Union Parliament, some American lawmakers, and United Nations human rights experts have long demanded the release of Leila de Lima, who was detained as an opposition senator in February 2017 in what they called political persecution by Duterte and his allies, and a major blow to Philippine democracy. Duterte, whose stormy 6-year term ended in June last year, has insisted on her guilt. El Salvador's government has begun slapping a $1,130 fee on travelers from dozens of countries connecting through the nation's main airport. The move comes amid U.S. pressure to help control migration flows to its southern border. Since the end of October, citizens of 57 largely African countries and India have had to pay the fee, according to El Salvador's aviation authority. Aviation officials did not say whether the measure was aimed at reducing migration. They have described the tariff as an airport improvement fee. But El Salvador's government acknowledged an uptick in travelers from those countries this year. Long-haul carrier Emirates says it will buy Boeing Corps aircraft in a deal worth $52 billion. Emirates CEO and chairman Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed Al Maktoum made the announcement on Monday at the Dubai Air Show. He says the deal will see the carrier purchase 90 Boeing 777 aircraft. Emirates also plans to buy an additional 5 Boeing Dreamliners. Its sister carrier, the low-cost airline Fly Dubai, said it would order 30 Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners, the first wide-body aircraft in its fleet, for $11 billion. The sales show how aviation has bounced back after the groundings of the coronavirus pandemic, even as Israel's war with Hamas clouds regional security. Yemeni officials say a migrant boat capsized off the coast of war-torn Yemen, leaving dozens of people, mostly from the Horn of Africa, missing. They say there were 75 migrants on board the boat when it capsized Sunday off the Yemeni coastal city of Mocha. 26 people, but at least 49 others, remain missing. Yemen's state-run Saba news agency reported that the boat capsized due to strong winds, and that all the migrants, including women and children, fell into the water. The shipwreck was the latest sea disaster involving African migrants seeking a better life in oil-rich Gulf countries. The U.S. Army Special Operations Command says the 5 soldiers killed when their helicopter crashed in the eastern Mediterranean over the weekend were national treasures whose loss cut deeply. The commander of the Army Special Operations Command said, Monday, the soldiers came from families with deep military service ties spanning generations. The Pentagon has identified the 5 Army Aviation Special Operations Forces as Chief Warrant Officer 3, Stephen R. Dwyer, of Clarksville, Tennessee, Chief Warrant Officer 2, Shane M. Barnes, of Sacramento, California, Staff Sergeant Tanner W. Groan, of Gorham, New Hampshire, Sergeant Andrew P. Southard, of Apache Junction, Arizona, and Sergeant Cade M. Wolf, of Mankato, Minnesota. They were based in Kentucky. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the international news for Friday, November 14th, 2023. Thanks again for joining us here at the Dunkley Report.